Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Up Your Alley. It's a podcast with two best friends. That's me. My name is Taylor Edgar, and with me, as always, is my best friend, Jake Baggett. Say hi, Jake.
Hey, buddy.
We recommend things to each other, and then we have a bit of homework, watch, read, or listen to the thing the other person recommended, come back the next week and talk about it. This week, we are talking about the...
Did you write that thing down?
No, that was Top of the Dome.
Wow.
Right?
That's a whole lot of... That's everything that we do.
It's been not 30 seconds yet, so most people haven't clicked away, but if you are still listening, please click like and subscribe on YouTube because it's really important. Ha! Now it's 30 seconds. Now do whatever you want. So today we're going to be talking about the 2023 comedy film Bottoms, available to watch on Amazon, and Jake's recommendation for me, the 2023 film The Iron Claw, about the Von Erich wrestling dynasty. But first, before we get into that, we got to catch up. Finally, we both went and saw Madam Web.
Yeah.
So this episode will be out on the 23rd tomorrow for us, but we did see it last weekend, opening weekend.
Yes.
We were there.
Did. It was us, and when we went there was under 6 people. But then I would say like maybe 6 more people showed up.
Yeah.
So a total of 14.
So we both had stayed away from major spoilers, but unfortunately we were unable to stay away from basic borderline reviews of it.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite YouTubers just had things like, this movie is not good. Or the question at the bottom was, should you go see Madam Web? And the thumbnail said, no.
Yeah, just straight up no.
So we both had pretty low expectations, I think it's fair to say, going into it. And probably pretty low expectations for the first half of the movie.
I knew that this movie was going to get kicked off when, she's pregnant in the Amazon.
Oh, before we get into the details. So if you don't know, it's a Spider-Man adjacent movie. It's about a Spider-Man character.
Casey Webb. Cassie.
Yeah,
Webb.
named Madam Web, who is she controls all the different spider people somehow through different dimensions, depending on what, comic or animated TV show or what have you that you're currently reading or watching or whatever. So Dakota Johnson is in Madam Web. It's Spider-Man-like, and they try to sell the Spider-Man stuff, but there's no Spider-Man in this movie.
And you know what I would say? Well, before we get into all of this,
there are spider
the only thing that I really want to get into is she's hunting down a spider in the Amazon, Cassie's mother, in the 70s. They find it. She gets shot. Spider people come out from
the trees,
pick her up, take her to the spider cave. She gets bitten by one of the spiders, which gives you healing properties or something.
Yep.
But she gives birth. And then the head spider guy says, this baby's going to be coming back to here.
Eventually. Yes.
And then the mom just dies.
Flash forward 30 years. That's where our story picks up.
That's the weirdest thing to say to somebody on their deathbed is like, she's coming back to Peru. It's like, what are you doing to her? Where's she going?
So before we get into it, I do want to say this. There were parts of this movie where I literally pulled my hoodie up over my head and tried to cover my eyes because it is, as a deep-seated Spider-Man fan, like both of us are.
I love Spider-Man.
It was parts of it were a little rough, I'll say, but at the end of the movie, I think we both walked out. It's good.
It's good. I was happy with the movie.
It's fun. It's weird that's the hot take. Is like, no, it's fine. No, it's good.
I gave it.
What'd you want it to be?
I actually reviewed it on Letterboxd.
Oh, did you?
I gave it 2 stars out of 5.
Yeah.
You can hit I liked it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly it. I don't think that this movie is a movie of compromises.
Yes.
From every single person involved in
Everyone.
But it still comes together for a cohesive story that isn't just superpower people punching each other.
No.
That was the biggest takeaway for me is the biggest power was teamwork. It's beautiful. We're back to it.
I like the Venom movies too, but both Venom movies are Venom punching a different Venom.
Yeah, this was on par with the Venom movies.
Yeah,
I would have to say
better than the second Venom movie. I think I remember liking.
I would say it's on par.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would say it's better or worse.
It's better than Morbius. It's not.
I haven't seen Morbius.
It's not a terrible movie.
Yeah, it's not a terrible movie, is what I would say.
There are parts of it that are
definitively
just really rough. I like Adam Scott plays Ben Parker.
Yes,
he's going to be Uncle Ben.
Yes.
And full spoilers for this because no one's seen this movie.
He's going to be Uncle Ben?
Well, I guess by the end of it, he is an Uncle Ben.
Oh, I see.
But at this point, he's going to be.
I thought you were already building
uncle.
up a Spider-Verse that I didn't hear about.
So you never see May, so that could still be what's her name? Marissa Tomei. Probably. Adam Scott could pull.
Hell yeah.
Adam Scott could pull Marissa
Absolutely.
Tomei.
Adam Scott was so charming. He was movie.
Great. And he was full on Adam Scott. The way like Paul Rudd just Paul Rudds through the Ant-Man movies, he's just Adam Scott.
Very good point. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think he's great as an Uncle Ben.
He's got a great line in it where Cassie tells him, like, I'm sorry, Cassie. Ben's helping Cassie, and she says, I'm really sorry for this. You didn't ask for this. And he says, well, you didn't ask for it either.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. He's just being like, I get it. This is a big shit salad, and I'm just here to help.
So the plot of the movie is Cassie Webb, she has powers where she could see what's going to happen. It's a little bit Day After Tomorrow. It's a little bit whatever the Nicolas Cage Next or Knowing.
The Knowing.
Is it Knowing or Next?
Whoa, I am now the Knowing. Oh, no, the Knowing is when he knows the world's going to end.
Next is when he knows.
He could say, he can see all the different...
She's got vague Nicolas Cage powers.
Yeah, it's mostly Next.
Yeah.
This movie is Next.
So she can see a little bit in the future, and then she could change it. And then she could do the same thing over and over again, kind of like Day After Tomorrow.
Until the end.
Right.
Where she could do multiple things of the future at once in the present.
Right. Because she's
and it culminates really well where every single girl that she has to save equally gets set up on a precarious ledge, knocked down, and hanging.
So the supporting...
one right after another.
The supporting cast is Sydney Sweeney, Isabella Merced, and Celeste O'Connor, who played Julia Cornwall, Anya Corazon, and Maddie Franklin, respectively. All that become, I think they're all Spider Women at some point, named Spider Woman.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think any of them were
I think
Spider
it's just Spider Woman. Yeah.
Yeah. They were all, just Spider Woman. And so you see them in their costume for, I think, a grand total of maybe a minute.
Well, it wasn't about the costumes.
Right. So they're just girls in this. They don't have
it wasn't
their
about
spider powers.
them. Yeah, they're just girls here. And it's like, in 10 years, they come to kill me.
Yeah. So the villain was horrible. And we noticed this halfway through.
The acting was so bad from the villain.
I don't think it was the acting. I think he acted well on the day.
Maybe.
But then a lot of his dialogue, I think, had to have been re-recorded.
I think, what if his acting was so bad
that they
re-recorded the ADR, and the ADR is like, they're like, well, that's better than what he did on the set.
It seemed like, but maybe the way it was cut made it almost look like they knew they were going to have to re-record dialogue because some of his cuts, he's just not either.
They definitely just went with the cuts where you could barely see his mouth.
Yeah, or
because when you saw his mouth, he wasn't saying the words that he was saying.
Right. There's a couple shots where like you hear him talking while someone's reacting to what he's saying.
Yeah,
and then it cuts back to him.
It's done so much it like messes with your head.
Yeah.
Because you're like, is the audio synced off or something? But
you asked me that about 15 minutes in the movie. You're like, is the audio off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's just every time this guy talks, he said something on set that they were like, change it. Yeah. Change every single thing that he says.
Like, that's going to be an issue later. We're probably going to leave this out.
But there was one thing that like perplexed us for a bit about the bad guy was he didn't wear shoes.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's wild. And then it clicks later. He's a Spider-Man.
Right.
He can't spider web through his feet, through shoes, and socks.
You wearing loafers?
Yeah.
Like a Spider-Man in loafers.
Yeah, kick those things off. I was like, that's great. Because another movie would have just been like, yeah, you just got to keep them on there.
Yeah.
But this movie is like, no, you got to kick them shoes off, Holmes.
Except when he's wearing his spider suit. So he does have Spider-Man-ish powers, and I like the concept of a bad Spider-Man. I think it was done better in the second Into the Spider-Verse movie when there was a bad Spider-Man and Miguel O'Hara being a bad Spider-Man. That was a better movie. I'm not saying this is
that movie is incredible.
Yes.
Where this movie is just good.
It's an unfair comparison.
Yes. It's an absolutely unfair comparison other than saying that this is Spider-Man.
But at the end of this, you get Dakota Johnson. She's blinded by her heroism, and she's in the wheelchair, and all the Spider Girls are like helping her out, and she's blind Madam Web, and they have a great little look-ahead line where they say something about Ben, and it's like, oh, he says being an uncle is easy, and because it's so much less responsibility, and Madam Web just goes, oh, he'll find out.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that's perfect way to do it.
Yeah, that's just a cute way of doing it instead of being like, Ben, no.
Yeah.
Just being like, oh, he's going to find out.
Because they don't hold the baby up in front of you and be like, this is Peter. Get it? He's Ben Parker. You remember Uncle Ben? This is that Ben. And this is Peter Parker, like Spider-Man. You guys love Spider-Man. Yes. This is Spider-Man.
They toy with the idea that never telling you the name of the baby.
Right. I think it was not as heavy-handed as it could have been, which isn't a compliment. I'm just saying this could have been worse.
Yes. because the fortune cookie. I remember seeing the picture of Uncle Ben with the fortune cookie. That was the promotionals.
Yeah, that was the meme.
And it was like, yeah, it says great power comes with responsibility. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that at all.
It doesn't say anything.
Cassie's doesn't say anything, which means that her destiny isn't made up yet, which is cute.
Yes, that is cute. My problem with that is after she has a blank fortune cookie, Ben says, "You know what that means, right?" And you think it's going to be something, and he's like, "It means their printer's broken. We should never eat at this place again." How do you think Chinese restaurants work? Do you think there's someone back there printing these out and hand cutting them and stuffing them into cookies in every single Chinese restaurant?
Yeah, with little tweezers.
Exactly. That's such an absurd thing to say. Their printer's broken.
And then to assume, and then just be like, we'll never eat there again.
Yeah, how can we eat in an establishment that runs out of toner?
He was going for a great joke, and he nailed it.
Yeah.
That's my Ben.
Adam Scott was great. I think Dakota Johnson at the end of it. I've not seen her in much. I never saw the 50 Shades movies. I think that's kind of how she...
I haven't seen her in anything, I don't think. Yeah. But I enjoyed her in this movie.
Yeah, I think Sydney Sweeney and the rest of the Spider-Girls were good.
The villain was not great.
Yeah, they were kind of just teenage girls that talked like teenage girls, which is a little obnoxious, but...
Yeah. Just being silly.
Yeah.
You know, not taking this shit too seriously, and it's fun.
I am shocked by how much backlash there has been on the internet. And it could just be my algorithms feeding me negativity because that's how algorithms work.
I don't know. I think people want more out of a movie-going experience where I got enough out of it that I'm happy.
I think it was fine.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun. The things that were problems in the movies were more funny than they were like ruining it.
Right.
Where, you know, those things happen sometimes.
Well, it's like one of the last movies I think we saw big in theaters, we saw Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania together. Yeah. I think this is a better movie than Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
Quantumania kind of sticks around a little too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, Quantumania cost, I think, $200 million to make. I pulled up the box office on this. This cost $80 million to make.
Yeah.
And it grossed 54 in its first weekend.
Got close.
Right. Whereas Ant-Man and the Wasp cost like 200 to make and made 800. Yeah. So you're going to lose $100 million on that.
They made a big stink about Madam Web being in her costume and finding it on an Ocean Spray bottle. And it's like, that's your reveal? And it's like, she doesn't even wear it in the thing. It's not about the costumes. Like, this is the most origin story possible. Yeah. And I loved it for it.
Yeah.
It really, and I can't overstate how much I liked that it didn't come down to who punches harder.
Right.
And there was this, I knew I was going to really enjoy this movie when she had the premonition that the like ambulance chief or somebody was going to die.
It was Mike Epps, yeah.
Yeah, it was Mike Epps one, which is, that's great to see.
Yeah, good for Mike Epps.
And then you see him just slowly drive away in the background, and then a big truck comes and hits it. You cannot comedically time it like that without noticing how funny that is.
Yes, and it was, I think that was supposed to be kind of, you know,
after
like jarring, but I think we both audibly laughed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we were the only ones in the theater laughing, probably. But I definitely laughed really loud.
Yeah, it wasn't not all the jokes landed, but I don't think any of the recent big superhero movies, most of the jokes landed. I think this is not as good. I had more fun watching Marvels.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Marvels was a great movie.
Marvels. I thought you meant Marvel movies.
No, I mean, but as far as the Sony movies go, this is fine.
This is fine.
And I do like, this has been brought up by a couple people, great podcasters, YouTubers that I like, the guys of the Weekly Planet. They do a thing on YouTube called Caravan of Garbage where they go back and look at movies and like just do commentary about them. Mm-hmm. And they had one recently about Spider-Man Far From Home, the one where all the Spider-Men come back together. Uh-huh. And they were doing all of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies in preparation for this, getting that algorithm. Boys know what they're doing. That's why I have a recommendation for you later. So, and they bring up the fact that when you rewatch those movies, there's pauses, like when Andrew Garfield shows up and like takes off his mask, and you're like, holy shit, it's Andrew Garfield. There's an awkward pause in the movie where they've built in people to be cheering and hooting and hollering in a movie. Yeah. This movie didn't have that.
They've been doing that for decades, dog.
Right, but it's something I didn't notice because I was watching it in a theater.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you're watching have you ever seen any of the things where it's like Friends, but they take out the laugh track? Or like they do it with like the Big Bang Theory and shit like that too, and how awkward it is? Mm-hmm. Watching those Marvel movies now is like watching the Big Bang Theory without the laugh track, because they're just standing there like, oh, there's going to be a big laugh in the theater. Let's put 5 seconds on this. This was just a good movie. You can watch it. I'm sure it'll be on streaming soon. I don't know where Sony movies go to streaming.
I have no clue. No, I don't know. You know Sony's taking over Disney physical media?
Really?
Yeah.
Good for them.
That's weird.
Well, they make all the Blu-rays. Doesn't Sony own the patent for Blu-ray?
I guess so.
Yeah.
But
kind of checks out.
I'm just surprised.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I think on the whole, when this comes to streaming, watch it. It's good.
I would say watch it.
It's good. Yeah. It's better than it has any right to be.
Yeah, especially if you watch it with others. You're going to have a fun time watching it with people.
Except one gaping plot hole that dawned on us both at the same time. So Cassie Webb was born in Peru and her mother dies immediately. And then she's talked about how she's raised in the foster care system in New York.
Yeah.
In what world does a baby get born in a jungle in Peru and somehow get kicked back? You don't just go back to where your parents are from.
You can't do that.
There's no infrastructure in Las Arañas, as they're called.
You can't have, if you're a Spider-Man,
right? You
can't just go, oh, no, I leave this baby here. No. You give it American birth certificate.
You need to take the baby to New York. It's going to be a whole thing. Trust me. I have spider powers. I can kind of see the future.
Yeah.
She'll be back, but she's got to be raised elsewhere.
She's got to be raised in America.
If you know she's coming back to Peru, just keep her in Peru. Like, she's a spider person.
I mean...
let her live with Las Arañas.
It's really weird. That definitely...
And it's not a huge plot hole, but it dawned on us at the same time
what the rewrites were all about. Because they're like, oh, shucks, how do we fix this?
And I will say this. I kind of like the way they changed the Spider-Man line. Because the head Arañas told her, because Cassie's whole crisis was that she doesn't have the strength to do this. She can't fix this
she doesn't
problem.
Have the power.
And he was like, when you finally take responsibility, you will find great power. And I was like, oh, they twisted it. And it kind of worked.
It worked because, for the movie.
Yeah.
I like how it works because she decided to take on
she didn't
saving these kids.
She didn't have great power.
Yeah.
She took the responsibility and found the power.
And that's how she got her power. Yeah. It was a fun little play on how to do it.
I'll say this. Clever writing.
It's
good job.
The thing is filled with clever writing. This thing that I like is the CPR thing where she works for EMS, so she knows CPR. She's teaching the girls CPR, and that's a really cool thing to learn. That helps people stay alive.
Everyone should learn.
2, it's a teamwork activity because you have to take over when somebody's starting to get tired. And then 3, it culminates in saving somebody's life in the movie.
Yeah.
And it helps bond the women together. That's great.
Yeah.
Good writing.
Yeah. I think it's fine.
Fine writing.
I think if Dakota Johnson shows up in future Marvel stuff,
that'd be hilarious.
Great. I think it'd be really funny. I really want her to show up in Deadpool. If she's in Deadpool 3, I'm going to lose my shit. Because that sounds like something Ryan Reynolds would do. I don't know how that works with Sony into Marvel and characters like that. But if she shows up in Deadpool 3, I'm going to be fucking out of my mind happy. Because I like it. I would go see another one of these.
Yeah.
I would see any one of these Spider Women.
Yeah, I would agree. If they made a second one, I would happily go see it again.
Yeah. I think the one girl, what was it? The girl that plays Maddie, Celeste O'Connor. And she had a great moment where her parents were gone and her parents are super rich and just kind of leave her. Yeah. And they all the Spider Women had nice little stories about why they didn't have a family. Anya Corazone's father got deported back, and so she's living in an apartment by herself. And Sydney Sweeney's parents just she has her.
Sydney Sweeney's, that's the other plot hole. Hers is her mom and dad split up. One lives in California, one lives in New York.
Yeah,
she lives in California with her dad. She came to New York. She ran away from her dad, to try and find her mom
and her stepmom. No,
she's
her mentalist.
She's in a mental asylum.
She got holdovered.
Yeah,
it was just a holdover situation.
She legitimately ran away to see if her father would care.
Well, no, it's just
then Madame Web was like, "You're gonna live with me now."
Madame Web is her Paul Giamatti from The Holdovers.
If Paul Giamatti could see the future,
so much better. She just gives them all copies of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, so they have to sit down and read it. It's good. All right, so that's the end of our Madame Web talk.
There you go.
You got anything else going on? You've been playing Helldivers.
I've been playing Helldivers like crazy, man.
Yeah, I got to get
Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
It is very good.
Good video
The
game?
servers are trash right now. I have to wait an hour sometimes to get a game going. But when it starts playing, it is so much fun.
I have been seeing some clips of people playing it. It's really good. It looks Starship Trooper-y.
Yeah.
It looks fun.
When you're fighting the bugs, it's very Starship Trooper. When you're fighting the automatrons, it looks like T2 Judgment Day at the beginning when you're seeing the Skynet T-1000s.
Well, that's fucking
just take
dope.
over. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I've got
Having
video
time
game.
of my life.
I got video game to talk to you. I'm almost done with it, but I want to talk to you about it next week when I'm completely finished.
Ooh.
Surprise video game.
Okay.
Yeah.
To recommend me? You're going to recommend it to me?
No. Well, kind of. I want to talk to you about it, but I want to finish it first because it's an in-depth conversation that you will want to get into.
Okay.
But we're going to get into our topics for this week, which again are the Iron Claw and Bottoms. As soon as we get back from this quick message from our sponsor. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in the world and is going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools to approach your life in a very different way. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, and that's important because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially if you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with your therapist, and there's a link in our description. It's betterhelp.com/Allie. That's betterhelp.com/Allie. Clicking that link helps you support this channel and also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp so you can connect with a therapist to see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't fit in with your first therapist, and that's common, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without the stress of insurance or who's in your network or anything like that. I'm a big proponent of therapy, and anybody that knows me can attest to the difference that it's made in my life the past couple years, and I recommend this program to anybody. So if you're struggling, please consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/Allie. That's betterhelp.com/Allie for 10% off your first month. And we want to thank BetterHelp for supporting our podcast. All right, we're back. We're going to start with Jake's recommendation for me, which was the 2023 film biographical sports drama written and directed by Sean Durkin, The Iron Claw, about the Von Erich wrestling family.
Yeah.
And they're just happy life.
And the Von Erich curse.
Happy-go-lucky, fun time, not at all a complete bummer of a movie.
It's about brothers. It's about brotherly love.
It sure is.
It's about Jake, big family.
So give us a rundown why you wanted to watch this, why you wanted me to watch it. This is by my count, the third wrestling thing you've recommended?
Well, I love wrestling.
I know.
I just don't keep up with it anymore.
But
it was a big developer for me. The Von Erichs is something that I know about because,
little before our time.
Before our time, before WWF took over everything. WWE.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know of the Von Erichs. You yourself know of the Von Erichs
Due to one of your past recommendations, which was Robert Evans' podcast, Behind the Bastards, when he's talking about Vince McMahon.
Yes.
That's the first time I had heard of the Von Erichs and Fritz Von Erich specifically.
Right.
And the Von Erich curse.
And just how bad Fritz is.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe slamming your head against a mat and getting brain injuries probably has some long-term effects on people.
Not only do I care about wrestling like this stuff, but I also hear that this movie is very good. Mm-hmm. And then you look at Zac Efron and you're like, that doesn't look like Zac Efron at all.
No, when he was filming this movie, there were like people that were posting like TMZ style pictures of him.
Yeah.
It's like Zac Efron got all this plastic surgery, he's unrecognizable. I was like, he's acting, right? He's an actor.
Yeah.
He's a ridiculously handsome man.
Yeah.
He has to what Charlize Theron did in Monster. He monsters himself a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely.
He still looks handsome, but he's not.
He chinned up.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, and he bulked up, too.
And he bulked up like crazy.
Huge.
But we've been going on a kick of watching Oscar-worthy movies. So this was literal contenders.
Yeah, this
one wasn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of the discourse that I read was Zac Efron was robbed of his opportunity because he deserves it for this movie.
You figure movies like The Wrestler and The Fighter and stuff like that, you kind of and the biographical sports drama is usually pretty Oscar baity too.
Yeah,
and also movies that are just big old bummers. Those are Oscar bait too.
Yeah. So I was still in the headspace to watch high cinema.
This did win. I'm looking online. The National Board of Review. It won for Best Ensemble, which I will give it that.
There you go.
The cast on this is great. Mm-hmm. You have Zac Efron is playing Kevin Von Erich. Jeremy Allen White, the Bear himself, is Kerry Von Erich. Then the other Von Erichs I didn't really recognize too much, but Harris Dickinson plays David, and Stanley Simons plays Mike, and then the dad is McElhenney, I think. Sorry,
I don't know.
He was on. I recognize him. He was on a show, Mindhunter. Did you ever see Mindhunter?
No, but I've recognized this guy too.
Yeah, Mindhunter is a show about the beginnings
That's
of
a Fincher show?
No. It's about the beginnings of the FBI serial killer program. And
it's on Netflix.
Yeah, Jonathan Groff's on it. It's so fucking good. And he's the straight-laced FBI detective. Like, I don't trust all this psychoanalyzing. These people are just killers, and killers need to be locked away. And he's that guy. He's fucking great. And he plays a hard ass in this too.
An antagonistic guy.
And Maura Tierney plays the matriarch of the family. So,
yes, sir. And I just wanted to talk about it, so I suggested it to you.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Yeah.
Here we are.
So,
yes, sir.
Christ, man.
Yeah.
This
so you got
movie's
sad.
Bummer.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
It's a real bummer.
Yeah, it's a big bummer.
All right. So, if this is your first time listening to the show, we rate the things between 1 and 3 based on how much it is up our alley. This being Jake's recommendation to me, if this movie is up my alley or not, to say nothing about how well it was made, how well it was acted, how much I like the cast, how much I like, everything else they've done.
You're going to give it a 1?
This is a hard one.
This is a 1 from you.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Jake, you know how much I don't like just... This movie's a grind, and it is not optimistic until the last 30 seconds.
Love this movie.
Yes,
I
understand.
Was incredible.
It's a big old bummer.
I think Zac Efron
Yeah,
was incredible.
He's great.
The entire time.
Jeremy Allen White was fantastic.
Great to watch. I think the story progressed gloomingly slow, but
dude, it's It's 2.5 hours of just sadness. Just so sad.
I love Kevin Von Erich, and I think wrapping the story around him was really good.
Yes, well, they have to, because, spoiler alert, he's the only one still alive.
I think that the reframing of masculinity is done so well, especially for something in a sport like wrestling, where it's even fake to want the belt, and to recognize that your goals of your father don't have to be your goals.
Right.
Even if you want to be the strongest and the hardest, it doesn't mean that you can't be a good, sensitive man.
Right. And I don't want to say, I'm not writing this off because it's a family, and like the dad has always put on it's like the world heavyweight thing is going to get
was
into...
called the Von Erich curse.
Right.
And it starts with the movie saying that Fritz changed his name to Von Erich.
Right.
And that's when the curse starts.
Yes.
And then Kevin changed his son's name to their actual last name. I can't remember what it is.
Addison, I think it was.
Breaking the curse.
Yeah.
That's framing up the masculinity, that this masculinity is dying and it should die and it's dead now and good riddance.
Okay, it's not just masculinity that's dead and dying now. Everyone fucking dies in this movie.
Yes.
So, full spoilers. 1, this was kind of ruined for me by Robert Evans' episode because I knew what happened to all of these people.
Kind of ruined to you by real life because it happened.
Yes. And to say nothing of this family, like, I'm sure Kevin Van Erich is a great guy. He seems like in interviews and stuff that he's done, and, at the very end, it shows him and, like, all of his kids and all of his grandkids, yada, yada, yada. His younger brother, David, that was going to... He's going to be the...
Ric Flair to...
Yeah, he flies out to Japan. He dies in Japan. They say it's acute enteritis, but most people are saying he was probably on drugs.
Yeah,
and that causes, problems in your gut if you're on cocaine and pills and stuff like that. Regardless, so he dies. Then the Bear gets on his motorcycle after he wins heavyweight title, and he loses his foot. And then later, he kills himself.
Yeah.
And they have another brother who gets wrecked in the ring, gets brain damage.
He gets nerve damage
because he got an infection.
Shoulder.
He got an infection while he was doing a routine surgery to fix his shoulder. Got an infection. His brain got to like 107 degrees, so he was fucked. And he killed himself too. That all happens back to back to back. To say nothing of the fact, while I was watching this movie, pulling up like the IMDb and stuff like that, I was like, I feel like there was another brother.
Yeah.
There was Chris Von Erich, who does not appear in this movie because he also killed himself. And the director of this film says in an interview, we had to write out Chris because in the 7 years of writing this movie, it felt like a lot. And I'm just saying, if you have to write someone out because the movie's too sad, maybe just don't make the movie.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, it sounds like to me when you say that it felt like a lot, is they're saying that it kind of ruins the pacing of the movie
because there's another death horrible thing that
this
happens.
Isn't a documentary; it's a movie trying to tell you a story.
I'm well aware of how films work. I'm just saying that maybe just no. It's so bleak and sad, and Zac Efron is very good in it. And I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying, as far as movie things I enjoy, I don't like how good this is and how sad it makes me.
Yeah.
Because the last shot of the movie is Zac Efron. All of his brothers are dead.
Maybe this is your Big Short, I guess, where I can see how that's a good movie, but it makes me too mad to care about it.
Perfect example. That goes back to, for new listeners, one of the biggest arguments we had early on in the show. Jake thinks The Big Short is a bad movie, and I know that Jake's wrong because The Big Short rules.
It just makes me mad.
Yes. This just makes me such a big bummer. Like, I was so unhappy, and it wasn't the kind of unhappy where I felt like kind of, I don't know, relieved at the end, because it has a vaguely happy ending for I think it was a beautiful ending. Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where if they had that realization earlier, a lot of these people would have been saved. That's the thing.
I knew this was going to be a one for me.
That's a hard thing to hear.
Yeah.
When you say, like, when Kevin said, he's like, I used to have brothers. He's like, I used to be a brother, and now I'm not a brother.
When he sees his two sons playing in the yard.
And then his sons say,
you could be our brother.
Dead.
And then he starts crying for the first time in the movie because he doesn't cry at any other fucking...
there. Beautiful.
I don't need this in my eyeballs and brain forever. God damn it. This made me so upset watching it. It's a hard one for me.
It's such a good thing.
Never. All right.
Absolutely
recommend this was a one
to everybody.
Because there is one bright ray of sunshine in this movie. And that's
Tom Petty.
There's a good bit of Tom Petty.
Why didn't you get... That's a whole point right there.
No.
Tom Petty is featured prominently.
The actor Aaron Dean Eisenberg, who shows up playing Ric Flair. And god damn it, I am not a wrestling person.
He doesn't look like Ric Flair, but he gets the cadence down pretty darn well.
He may not look exactly like Ric Flair, but when he shows up in the pink boa with the platinum blonde hair, for someone that isn't like super well versed in Ric Flair, I'm seeing him like, it looks like if they made an action figure of Ric Flair.
When he hits the ring.
It's like that.
Yeah.
And he was so charming.
When he's styling and profiling, I was like, he gets it. He gets what
says something to the
is.
effect of, like, because it was right after one of his brothers died, because that happens all the time. Ric Flair's just like, I don't care about your family tragedy. You're going to fight me in the ring. And I'm like, what a great fucking heel this guy is. Like, I wish this movie was just an hour and a half of Ric Flair antagonizing families that have just gone through a tragedy.
I might make a pivot and make you watch something different than my recommendation.
Is it more
tonight.
Ric Flair? Because I don't feel like watching it.
Yeah.
No, such a fucking bummer, this movie.
Ric Flair's still alive. He's fine. He's great.
I know he is. He was on Joe Rogan like last year.
Good God.
Yeah. Well, it's the biggest show on the planet. So if you get the money, get the money. But yeah, well acted, well directed, well written. Fuck, I hated this movie.
Great movie.
I did not like this at all. It's available to stream.
Beautiful movie.
I can see why you liked it.
Yeah,
I think you're right about the Big Short thing. I could see why you liked it.
Yeah.
But I walked upstairs after this movie, and I was just like, God, I think Jake's mad at me. Like, this is just, I was so upset.
I want to talk about Iron Claw.
I understand. I'm glad we talked about it. I'm glad I saw it. But
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. This is the second big swig you made for Oscar. Maybe I just don't like Oscar movies.
I just don't think you like Oscar movies. This isn't an Oscar movie.
I liked Madam Web.
Yeah.
Maybe this should have a little more Madam Web in it. Maybe I'm an idiot because I did not like Anatomy of a Fall. I was not a fan of this. I like this better than
Anatomy of a Fall more than this movie.
Yeah, I like this better than Anatomy of a Fall. I like Madam Web better than both of these movies.
Yeah, that's wild, dude.
I'm sorry. I'm a wild guy. I'm coming in with hot takes.
That's a wild thing.
Hot takes for the internets.
Holy.
That's what I'm here for. All right.
Anatomy of a Fall and Iron Claw, you could watch 20 years from now and be like, wow, that's great. Madam Web, you're going to be like, holy.
Can't believe they did this.
Yeah.
Now they're on Madam Web 15 because these movies are so good.
Because we love them.
Exactly. So, yeah. Iron Claw. Jake likes it. I don't like it. Tell us what you think. Send us an email, upyouralleypod@gmail.com, or let us know in the comments or whatever what you think of Iron Claw and who's wrong, because one of us is, or both of us are. Two things can be true. So let's talk about something else that's a little more lighthearted. The 2023 film available to watch now on Amazon, directed by Emma Sigelman and written by Emma and Rachel Sennett. Rachel Sennett also stars in this with Ayo Edebiri. The film Bottoms. Comedy. This is another one. I think I'm going to have to eat my words a little bit because I said a couple weeks ago that they don't make any good broad comedies anymore. And we talked about...
Broad is a pun?
No, it's not a pun. It's not a pun.
This is how you want to bring it up?
General comedy.
Broads don't do comedy no more like they good.
No, but the Please Don't Destroy movie that we did, the Jake Johnson movie Self-Reliance, and now this movie Bottoms. Just a delightful... It's the opposite of the Iron Claw. It is just a great movie. It's
a lot of people die in it.
It's weird. It's set in a weird universe. The premise of the movie is there are two girls. What are their characters? PJ and Josie. They're best friends, and they're both, in love with two other girls at their school, and it's their senior year. It's a classic thing. No one's going to notice us.
Like a super bad type thing.
Where a little bit of a super bad type thing.
There's a Hail Mary to try and get them to sleep with us.
I mean, it's every teen high school comedy. It's like, it's our last year. It's just a good way to get the gears going. And so what they end up doing is starting basically a women's self-defense club, fight club style thing, to protect themselves from the rival school that they have to play at homecoming, because this exists in a universe where it's just an absurd, exaggerated, almost like, I would say close to like almost an Anchorman sort of universe where it's just like a very absurd and hyper
it's like
stylized.
Airplane.
Yeah.
Irreverence.
Yeah.
Because the football players wear their football uniforms all the time.
Yeah.
Jeff is the head football
and his jersey says
quarterback.
Jeff.
It just says Jeff on the back of it. There's a cage with a wild child in a classroom. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just back there, never addressed.
Yeah, the principals are telling the kids to shut the fuck up and like, how could you do this? It's a very funny, it's just a great comedy. It's not trying to be any way, shape, or form realistic.
Yeah, it's not grounded.
No. So I recommended this to you because it's another just good comedy. It's got two people from The Bear on this, because Ayo Edebiri's on The Bear too, and we had Jeremy Allen White, The Bear himself.
The Bear's always in our lives.
A lot of bears.
We're gonna have to watch Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Forecasting has
Fantastic Four.
That's got The Bear in it too.
Yeah,
a lot of bears.
It's got Richie,
and so I just really thought this movie was great. Mm-hmm. I thought it was very funny. I thought there are a couple just standout performances. It's my type of movie, violent, funny, doesn't take itself seriously. And I was like, wow, after that bummer of a movie Jake had me watch, maybe we should do something a little lighthearted. So, what did you think of Bottoms?
This movie is incredible.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Came out of nowhere.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's silly from the get-go.
Yes.
Rachel Sennett is...
I think it's Senate.
Or Senate.
Like the higher house of Congress.
She is so funny, and Ayo is great, as always.
PJ and Josie, and they're great best friends. They have that kind of best friend chemistry that's automatic. You said
their chemistry is great. Yeah,
Superbad is probably the closest thing to it, except it's
instead of Michael Cera and Jonah Hill, it's these two, and they do just you can tell that they've been friends for a long time. The way that they speak to each other and just how they carry on, and it just seems like a lot of fun that they're having. PJ likes to act like she's all big and cool, and she doesn't give a shit, but she also gets really shy and stuff around her crush.
Yeah.
And it's Ayo, what's her character's name?
Josie.
Josie?
Yeah.
Yes.
PJ is Rachel Sennett's character.
Josie is kind of buttoned down, shy. She doesn't want to do anything crazy, but she'll play in because PJ kind of pushes her around.
Yeah.
And that dynamic is always great. But what got me was when the irreverence started. just going
out
the window. They just start punching each other really hard.
Yeah.
At Fight Club.
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch is in this movie.
Marshawn Lynch is a freaking delight in this movie.
And he's just a great presence to have.
So Marshawn Lynch he was widely known during his football career as hating press conferences. Like, there were a couple press conferences where he was contractually obligated to be there and answer questions for the reporters.
Yeah.
And he answered the reporters' questions like, I'm just here because I have to be.
Yeah.
And they're like, so what do you think about upcoming game against Denver, blah, 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 blah. And he's just like,
I just don't want to, I'm here because I don't want to get fined.
Yeah. And so as far as athletes turned actors, he's right up there. He's so funny in this, and apparently a lot of his dialogue was improvised.
Yeah.
They just gave him long takes.
Have you ever seen the show Murderville?
Yeah.
He's in an episode of that.
Yep.
And he's great.
He was also in an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine playing himself.
That's very true.
And God damn it. Like,
yeah, the dude's a funny man.
Athletes that become actors, Michael Jordan in Space Jam, not a good acting performance.
Just an iconic performance.
No, but he's bouncing off the Looney Tunes. But he did a better job than I think LeBron James did. But LeBron James also in the film Trainwreck, there are a couple scenes where it's just LeBron James and Bill Hader. And it might be something that if you're playing off someone that's that funny, it kind of just makes you funny going back. Which the scenes with Marshawn Lynch and PJ and Josie, they're fucking hysterical. Like, I was dying laughing. Marshawn Lynch is just effortlessly funny, just reacting to anything. He's such a great presence to have on this film. And you just see him, you're like, oh, fuck.
What was the name of their other friend? The one that took the notes and everything? Was her name Paige? No, I don't think so.
Oh, shit. Let me look that up, because she was great, too.
She was great, too, because...
Hazel.
Hazel.
Played by Ruby Cruz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ruby Cruz was amazing in this movie.
Yeah. Just the third... She's there McLovin, if we're keeping the Superbad references. Yeah. But she was, kind of charming.
She's in the background, and she takes notes. Her mother is having an affair
with Jeff. Yeah.
Which, that's very funny. And they decide to go mess with Jeff's house by egging it and throwing TP on it.
Yeah.
And, they can't even get the TP over the trees to put it on there. Mm-hmm. And... meanwhile, Hazel is just putting C4 plastic explosives underneath Jeff's car.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
This stuff is crazy good.
Well written.
Yeah.
All around good movie.
Yeah. Just a bunch of really weird, wild stuff happening the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about it too much in reference to its jokes because I think you should experience it as it is.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
But, yeah, it's on Amazon.
Yeah.
I think everybody should go watch it because it's absolutely a 3. It's a gem of a movie. I remember the internet telling me again that this movie wasn't that good.
Really?
Yes.
The internet told you that?
Yes.
I don't trust the internet.
I don't trust the internet. You know what I've noticed about it?
What?
We're old. We're old.
Oh, shit. We are old.
These are 20-year-olds on the internet now.
Yeah.
And they're forming opinions. They're starting to form opinions. They're high schoolers and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're like...
You think 20-year-olds are high schoolers and stuff?
Yes. Why, you weren't?
No.
I was saying they're like 20 at the oldest.
Yeah.
And then down.
It's these Gen Z kids.
And then there's this big blank, and then there's us.
Yeah.
Where there's people trying to stay with the cool kids and like, yeah, holy hell, Madam Web's like really bad, kids, isn't it? And then you have other kids that are just like, I actually think Madam Web's is the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
And you're like... all right, let's calm down.
You just have us watching The Meg 2 and just be like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but
The Beekeeper was made for us.
Did you see The Beekeeper yet?
No, I'm not going to go see The Beekeeper by myself.
You don't have to.
In the theaters.
It's not in the theaters. It's on Amazon. You can watch The Beekeeper.
Oh,
watch The Beekeeper.
Well, I might watch The Beekeeper.
You have to watch The Beekeeper before April.
Why?
Because I have plans for April. So you got next month. I'm not going to recommend you The Beekeeper, but you're going to have to watch The Beekeeper.
I don't like this side of you. This is feeling a little
Don't make
forceful.
me waste a recommendation on The Beekeeper. You're going to love it. It's one of the best movies ever.
I'll think about it. We'll think about it.
You better. All right. So yeah, Bottoms gets a 3 from both of us. Everyone
Bottoms
should go.
Is a 3. Highly recommended.
Yeah.
Wonderful performances. It's got one of the greatest things that I love in comedy movies, which is a gigantic fight at the end.
Yeah, big melee.
Just like Anchorman style, where just a big melee comes out of nowhere, and it's just wonderful.
And hyper-violent.
Yes, I love it when something just goes high energy off the wall, going crazy, doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
So, cannot recommend this movie highly enough. please watch it.
All right, so everyone should, if you have any recommendations for us, you can send it to upyouralleypod@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, subscribe and like and comment on all this. A bit shorter episode this week, but you know what? I think that might play. What are you doing? What are you Googling?
I'm trying to find something.
Don't be Googling stuff.
You're Googling constantly while we're doing this.
That's because I have a laptop in front of me, Jacob.
Give me a laptop.
All right.
There you go.
Do you want one?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, so send us an email, upyouralleypod@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Let's find out what we're going to be talking about next week.
You go first.
Are you Googling? You don't even know what you're doing.
I'm making an audible.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Just changing it up on the fly.
Making it an audible, changing up on the fly.
So my recommendation for you is a film that's available to watch on Cinemax, which if you don't have Cinemax, on Amazon, I found out you can sign up for a free 7-day trial of Cinemax and watch this movie. Everyone should do that. Or keep paying for...
another streaming service.
I mean, it's on
Cinemax
Amazon.
made their own?
I thought they were part of Max.
Max.
I thought that was
Isn't
the
that
Max of HBO Max.
Yeah.
So maybe I have it, but I don't know. I'm watching it on Amazon. It is a film. I mentioned this to you that this Sunday I'm going to see Dune Part 2 on the biggest IMAX around.
I remember this.
And so I wanted you to watch a film from 2013 directed by Denis Villeneuve, the director of Dune,
yes,
called Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal.
I know of this.
So, if you want to watch this movie, which I think everyone should watch it because it's a great movie, and it's one of those recs that I had kind of been toying with an idea of that I think you're going to like this a lot more than I liked it.
So you think about me too much. When I just think about, I want to watch this, I want to make Taylor watch it.
I know, but I kind of want to get things to like, you know, that's the whole point. It's not.
What I'm saying is I really appreciate it.
The show isn't agree with me because then I would just make you watch The Big Short every week.
Until I agree with you.
Yes, exactly. But this is one of those things where like, I think this, and it did, because I asked you, you know, have you seen this movie? No. It slipped under your radar. You're going to like this a lot more than me. Okay. And I will say this to anyone that wants to watch it. If you like the Dune movies with Denis Villeneuve, it's very, very him. The camera work, the mood, everything. Cool. Good. It's very cerebral.
The only thing I know is Jake Gyllenhaal's in it.
Jake Gyllenhaal's in it, and that's all you should know. You should know that Jake Gyllenhaal's in it, and it's good. And watch it, and then just seriously don't look up anything about this. It's one of those. It's kind of like what you told me. What's the time travel in a storage unit movie?
Primer.
Yeah, you told me with Primer. You're like, don't look up anything about it. Enemy. It's available to stream on Max or other places. Watch Enemy for next week so we can talk about Denis Villeneuve.
Okay.
All right. What do you got for me?
All right. So I have for you a podcast, buddy, and it's about online security.
What?
That's right. You're going to be listening to the podcast Darknet Diaries.
Darknet Diaries?
Specifically the episode on the Pirate Bay.
Oh, I know the Pirate Bay. That's where I used to get my seasons of Seinfeld and Scrubs.
Exactly. You should listen to this episode.
How many years ago was this episode?
Last year?
Episode 92, The Pirate Bay.
Yes.
This came out in May of 2021. So
2 years ago. 3 years ago.
There you
go. 1 year ago?
All right. So the podcast, Darknet Diaries, if people want to look that up, that is episode 92 about the Pirate Bay.
Yes.
I'm going to watch that. Jake is going to watch Enemy. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and do all that stuff. Email us up, upyouralleypod@gmail.com. Thanks for coming by. I screwed it up right at the end.
You went to scat at the end there. Thanks. Check it out.
That's the ending theme song. It's a new one. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I want to say real quick, one of my favorite moments that we had on this podcast
is you decided to throw it to me. You're like, Jacob, hit him with the theme song. Yeah. And I just started singing something off the top of my head, and the look of shock and fear in your eyes while I was just singing, it's burned in my memory for the rest of my life. I was so happy about that. That was a while ago.
I got to find that episode. Maybe I'll start editing that back in.
I have no idea what I sang because all I could see was you being like, oh my God, he's singing.
Oh shit, he's nailing it. All right, thanks everyone for listening. Jake, love you, buddy.
I love you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.